Shalom and welcome everyone to the ICEJ webinar series. I'm your host, David Parsons, Senior Vice President and spokesman for the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem, coming to you from our TV studios in Jerusalem, where today we are observing Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and so we're going to focus on remembering the Holocaust on Yom HaShoah. We have a special guest, Radik Wegreisen will get you to how to say it perfectly in a minute. But I just want to give a few opening remarks about Yom HaShoah. Israel has chosen a day just after Passover in order to remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust and all the heroes. They refer to them as martyrs and heroes at Yad Vashem. It's a really solemn day here in Israel from last night through this evening. There's no entertainment on TV. The restaurants are closed, the movie theaters, the dance halls, everything, in order to really focus on remembering all the Jewish families impacted by the Nazi genocide. And we had a big delegation at Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum and Memorial here in Jerusalem last night. We were also back there this morning laying a wreath. We have some footage of that for you, if we can roll that for just a minute, just to give you a taste of what's been going on here in Israel. This is the ceremony last night, President Herzog coming in. It's one of the few times that the President and Prime Minister of Israel show up at the same event, and they both gave excellent speeches. All the dignitaries on the front row. Here's the Prime Minister wearing a kippah. His wife Sarah, the Chief Rabbi.
In recent years, I've acquired a habit to host wonderful Holocaust survivors. You bear on you the scars of the terrible devastation.
This is one of the candle lighters. They have 6 survivors who light candles in memories of those who perished. This lady made a cry for the hostages in Gaza. She lit the flame there. That was the opening ceremony last night, and then this is this morning at 10 o'clock. There is a nationwide siren. You see, this is our neighborhood of Jerusalem down in Talpiot, and you can see traffic moving around, but once the siren sounds, everyone stops, and most people get out of their car and stand to attention. It's really, the nation of Israel, it's really in their psyche what happened to their people, 6 million, 2/3 of the Jews of Europe who perished in the Holocaust. Yom HaShoah is held just after Passover to honor the heroes of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which happened during Passover 1943. And because it's religious biblical holiday, they honor Yom HaShoah 5 days after the last day of Passover. We also went to Yad Vashem this morning for a wreath-laying ceremony. Here I am with one of our colleagues on staff, Anne Gaga from South Africa. Can you believe that? And we had the honor of laying a wreath for the Christian Embassy in Warsaw Ghetto Square at Yad Vashem this morning. Okay, back here in the studios, want to introduce my guests. Help me, Roddick, with your last name. Apologize, I didn't do this before. Regerzen.
Well, that's not bad.
Okay.
It's not the easiest.
It's a Polish name.
It's a Polish name, and the easiest Eselsbrücke, as we say in German. So the way to remember it is vin and gin.
Va and gin.
Yes. So
Va gin.
Vangin, Vangin.
Vangin. Okay. Look, we had the honor of meeting you on Tuesday night before Yom HaShoah up in Haifa, where you showed your new film, and we want to talk about this, a documentary, Miss Holocaust Survivor, where you came and documented this beauty contest among Holocaust survivors that our charitable partner, Shimon Sabag, at our Home for Holocaust Survivors in Haifa, he conceived this, I think around 12 years ago. Every other year they've been holding it. And you came in 2018 to film this experience. And I saw the film the other night. I want to tell you, it is unforgettable. It is mesmerizing, the way you let some of these survivors focusing on what they suffered in the Holocaust, and then also the people they become now, their personas. And one of the things, it just goes from, gut-wrenching stories of what they suffered from the Nazis to absolute, it's side-splitting humor from these ladies, natural humor that you let shine through, that I didn't know women were so funny when they're off by themselves. And you might have discovered that as well, but it really just, it's a little bit of a slow burn in that it goes from the hard things they suffered, and you give a little time to today and what they are like today, to honor the people they become, these elderly survivors, and a beauty contest that we started. There's a lot of controversy around it. How did you first find out about it?
Well, to be very honest, I had a friend who showed me an article in The Guardian, the British Guardian.
Yes.
And it was an article about this Merkat Yofi, this beauty pageant. And I read the article and I thought, what a brilliant idea. I'm pretty sure somebody has already made a movie out of it. So first thing I did, I started researching, and there was like a Polish lady, a young filmmaker who had made a short film, but nobody had made. Like
to be honest, we had several people. I do our media work, and Judith Setz, our director up there, we had talked about several folks. We didn't feel it was right, so we turned down quite a few requests, but something about you, it said this is the right guy to do it. So, and after watching the film, that was an excellent decision. Give me first a little more on your background, and then we'll really delve into the movie. This movie, Miss Holocaust Survivor, had already won an award at the Berlin Film Festival last year.
It was awarded the Ernst Lubitsch Prize. Lubitsch, of course, being the famous Jewish director who was a very important figure of early Hollywood.
So a director's prize for you is okay.
Yes. Yeah. And the wonderful thing about that is normally they give that to fiction. So comedy, tragic comedy, because Lubitsch really invented tragic comedy in a way, like in Hollywood. And this year they decided to honor a documentary, which was extraordinary.
It's usually not documentary films.
No. They made an exception.
They wanted a director who's got a script and bringing it to life. Yes. And this was what's amazing, is so much of the humor in here, and even the way they're telling the stories. It's unscripted, and we'll talk about it more. But some of these survivors and their stories I know the one was telling things she never even told her family because they felt relaxed, like they were confiding in you, and yet there's a camera there to capture these things for us. But you've been a filmmaker. I saw some other films, Violinismo, 2012.
Yes.
Looked very interesting. 3 young musical prodigies that are on stage and what they're going through. That was not a documentary. It was a film or a documentary?
That was a documentary.
Document. Yes. And then a film, a regular movie that you did, Father, Son, and Holy Cow.
Yes.
Looked very interesting. And School on Magic Mountain. So these are some of your prior films. You've also been involved in Startup in Stealth Mode, an AI expert, and educating people on AI, but this was something you took on more recently?
Yes, during COVID, because we had to keep ourselves busy.
Okay,
basically.
Multi-talented. But anything more about your background that you think our viewers need to know before we get into this?
Well, maybe, I've been living in Germany since 1984, really.
Originally from Poland.
But I'm originally from Poland. I was born in Gdańsk, the city of Gdańsk. And when I was 4 years old, my family moved to London, to Great Britain. So that was a kind of hopping,
Gdańsk, this was Lech Walesa and the whole... opening up of the Iron Curtain and all. Yes. So you lived through that. As we talk about it, let's first show the trailer for Miss Holocaust Survivor, our guest Roddick's documentary on the Holocaust Survivor Beauty Contest that we've been involved in for many years.
Musik ab, alle bereithalten. Das ist ein Schönheitswettbewerb mit völlig anderen Kriterien.
Ich bin Tova, 93 Jahre alt.
Nein, lauf nicht wie ein Soldat, Rita.
Ich heiße Rita Kasimov-Braun und ich bin eine Holocaust-Überlebende. Es war wie in ein Grab zu steigen, aber halb lebendig.
Sie können etwas zurückbekommen, das vielleicht in der Kindheit verloren gegangen ist.
Was für ein Empfang! Unglaublich!
Jede einzelne von uns hat was Besonderes.
Ich will leben. Ich will leben in dieser wunderschönen Welt.
Ich bitte um einen stürmischen Applaus. Was für erstaunliche Frauen.
Mann, ist das stark.
Ist das Champagner?
Es ist eine Grapefruit-Limonade.
You found out about this beauty contest because it was in the media, a lot of controversy. Is this exploiting these survivors? We always felt it was helping them recapture something that they lost in their childhood. These women were all robbed of their first kiss, their first date, the prom in high school, everything. And the positivity and the affirmation of life when they're able to feel beautiful and outgoing, and it's really been therapeutic for a lot of these ladies who get involved. But your film's so defensive. But is there something? What drew you to this? Is it the Holocaust? Was it the controversy, or do you have some personal connection to the Holocaust yourself through your family?
It was a mix of things. So number one, I've always, well, not always, but since I could read, I was always interested in history, and especially the history of the Holocaust. So that was my topic, so as to speak, in a way. And I always wanted to make a movie about it. And there's been thousands and thousands of movies about the Holocaust. So I didn't want to make the next one which was like all the others. Number one. Number two, I really feel a sense of educating as well. So you have to ask yourself, how do you get the attention of younger audiences for a topic that is very, very serious? And that's why when I read about this, I thought this is a brilliant idea. It is controversial, but in terms of storytelling, that's an asset. And number two, it combines two things, and one of the things every young person in the world knows, which is beauty pageants, because we've had shows about that, for the last 10, 15, 20 years. So I thought, why not use the whole thing as, this was my thinking, as a Trojan horse, the beauty pageant, to get the young people to see it and then discover the deeper truths and the real beauty which lies within.
So you're an educator. That was my next question. How important is Holocaust awareness, Holocaust education to you? But as an educator, you think especially in Europe that people need to remember it, and are the young people forgetting it?
Well, there is a tendency. And for me, it's very, very important because, and I forgot who said it, but if you forget about history, you're going to make the same mistakes. You're about to repeat it. But at the same time, as an educator, I know that if you're teaching something, it has to be relatable. It can't just be, facts, because that way you lose a large portion of the people that you're trying to educate. So I had to find something which is a universal topic. So, the question of what is beauty and what is real beauty, not the beauty that we see on Instagram, skin deep. So I wanted to get that. And what's wonderful about Germany, and Germany is doing a great job in educating, has been for many, many decades about the Holocaust specifically, is in Germany we have something which is called Schulkinowochen, which is school cinema weeks, which basically means that whole classes go to the cinema, and the class, the teacher who educates the class can choose from movies. And we got into that program. So I had school classes coming into these movies, and the great thing is they also invite the filmmakers to actually talk with the people about it. And I had some amazing discussions where I had young people saying, you know what, after this, I see my grandmother with different eyes. Regardless of whether, she's a Holocaust survivor, whether she's Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, it changes something.
Yeah, everyone went through the horrors of World War II.
Yes. And the other thing that young people tell me when they saw this was, in comparison to what these women went through and the beautiful lives they built after that, maybe some of my problems aren't as big as I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's already been schools and classes that have seen the film in Germany.
Yes.
Wow, excellent. I know we take this dear lady, Eva Urban. She lives down on the coast, I think Ashdod, but they take our branch in Germany for the Christian Embassy, takes her to German schools, and they pack it out, 2,000 or 3,000 people. She's like a rock star in front of them, just telling her story, and she's in her 90s, but still very articulate and really, so full of grace, and there's a certain energy about her that the young people, they want her to sign her book. They're buying her book. It's really amazing. But this is exciting news that you're getting into the schools with this.
But it's also important what you just said, because that's what I always tell the young people. It's what I experienced when I came here the first time and, got to meet the Holocaust survivors. Nothing, no movie, nothing replaces a human-to-human connection with a Holocaust survivor. I read dozens of books about that period, about the Holocaust. It's something different to read about it, and it's something different to sit next to a woman who is 100 years old, or close to 100 years old, and she tells you how she had to strip in front of Dr. Mengele. It's you can't compare it.
You're right. So it's similar here that if you meet one of the hostage families, you understand their plight and their plea a lot more. Let's get them out now, forget everything else. And
absolutely.
But you meet a survivor. I remember I met one gentleman at our Haifa home who said as a boy he had hid in the woods and with the underground. They wanted him to do something. He had to go shoot a guard at a little train station when they were getting ready to attack a train. He was like the bait to draw them out, and he was so nervous with the gun they taped his hand, and he had a big overcoat, and he managed to get the shot off. But I'll never forget this story. I never forget him when you hear this from someone personally, but you are right. The film, they say there's no business like Shoah business, that there's so many films out there about the Holocaust, but nothing like what you brought us, because it mixes this humor and the suffering back and forth, undulating between the two, interspersed, and it is remarkable. And but walk us through the filming process as a documentarian. The contest was going to be held in 2018. You had to prepare for it, get your team ready. What were you doing? How did you go through attacking this particular subject with your cameras?
Well, you know, in a documentary, it's fairly easy to organize your team and to organize the equipment. That's the easiest part. The most difficult part in a film like this is choosing your protagonists. So we came a year earlier already.
Okay.
And, you know, because one thing is me saying, you know, I don't know, Rita, for example, she has an amazing story. Another thing
she's the main focus.
She's the main focus.
Rita Brown, yeah.
Yes. Or Tova, the other one.
Tova Singer, the other.
The other thing is, even if I know that story is, Rita has to trust me with her story. Tova has to trust me. So I need to establish this trust before I even start getting the camera out. Because it's a big responsibility, and especially with a story like this. So that's what we sort of did for a year, and we also needed to get some, you know, financing in place for the movie, which was, by the way, much more difficult than I thought it would be.
Right.
Not because German people don't support, we have a great funding system, not because German people don't support Holocaust documentaries.
Or the arts.
Or the arts. We're great in that. But when German people heard for the, like, you know, when TV stations heard for the first time Holocaust and beauty pageant, some of them got very scared. You know, it's sort of a cat in the bag. They knew me, they knew the kinds of films that I do, and still it was something that they're very, very, very sensitive in Germany about that. So that took longer.
Who's the guy in Britain's Thoreau who goes to the U.S. and does?
Yeah, Louis
Thoreau.
Louis Thoreau. He's amazing.
Yeah. But you mentioned Rita Kasimov Brown. In 2000, she's now 90. 2018, she would have been 83. Tova Singer, she's now 102.
Ringer, yeah.
Ringer, she would have been 95, but she's 102. I mean, you film her exercising at the gym. I can't do what she was doing at 95. It was amazing.
Neither could I.
A Holocaust survivor, 95 years old, pumping iron and on the treadmill at like 20 miles an hour. It was amazing.
Yes, it was, you know, let alone that she inspired me to go back to sports. You know, everyone, we talk about, we need to work out, and then we don't work out. Like, that really inspired me. And if it inspires 4 other people, then that's a very, very nice side effect.
And
but
95, even if I wanted to do it in front of the cameras, I couldn't. But that's just her. She's still at 102. She still goes to the gym for an hour a day.
She doesn't do any more, but that's a very recent development because she broke two ribs.
Okay, and it's been tough, but. Remarkable ladies, and what did you learn from, these are the two main people you focused on. They both live at our Home for Holocaust Survivors. You had access to them. What did you learn from them through this process?
Oof. How long do we have?
Yeah.
No.
Life lessons, probably.
Life lessons, 2 interesting things. So as a documentarian, before you start filming, you sort of write a script. But you're dealing with real people, so it's really just a wish list that you're, you know, thinking about.
Yeah,
so
I hope we get this on camera. I hope we get that. But
exactly,
you got to take what you get.
But you're dealing with real people, and one of the first things that Haley, who is also in the movie, she's the artistic director, the one who guides them, said, even before we started filming the first rehearsal, was, watch the ladies because their humor is insane. It's really good, and they're she said they're really competitive. So, you know, that was marvelous.
Just like any beauty contest.
Yes, that's one of the things that I realized as a lesson very early. It's real people. They're wonderful, they're beautiful women, real people with all, you know, edges and everything. So let them be, let them be real people. Don't try to put them in a museum. They're alive. So show them. That's the strongest connection that you can have with a viewer. So that's number one. And number two, and this I only really realized when I was editing the movie. You know, as a documentary filmmaker, you make the movie twice, they say. And it's true, by the way. You film it, and then in the editing, you make the movie. So
and
that's
it's more
the
about
time.
what you leave out than what you
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because, you know, I think we had like 125 hours of footage. The movie is 87 and something minutes.
It's almost an hour and a half. Don't complain about it. It's well worth it. But when you consider all the footage you had, it was not easy process whittling it down.
No, not at all. But the thing that I learned, and that I learned only in editing, is that it sort of came to me when I was watching my own footage, was there's Holocaust survivors like Rita who thrive on telling their story. That's what they, I won't say live for, but it gives them energy.
Yeah.
And that's how they process. And that's how they sort of, and Rita tells her story. And there's others who have, their modus operandi, if you can call it like that, is that they've internalized, that they didn't tell their family, that they kept the horrors from them. And it's absolutely as valid. One method is as valid as the other method. So, and that was very interesting for me to sort of go through that process. There is no wrong or right. There's different people react differently to that.
Yeah, as we've focused over the last 15 years or so in caring for some of these aging and needy Holocaust survivors, it's true, there's one response or the other. They talk about what happened all the time, and it sort of drives their own children away, and they move to the other end of Israel just to, so they don't have to hear it every day. And others internalize it, they don't talk about it, and then they have anger issues, you don't know what it is, and it drives their children away. And the part of the treatment, the therapy they get is to find that balance. But was Tova one and Rita the other? Because I think you got Tova on camera saying things that she never told her family.
Exactly. And there's a cost of that for her. And that's something that I, as a director, because of the trust and because of the responsibility that I have for my protagonists, that I take very seriously. And I realized it when, so one of the habits that I have is when I do like the first long interview, the next day I call just to see, because sometimes in the first interview things come out. Sometimes in the third, fourth, but
were you comfortable with what you said?
Something like that. And Tova doesn't speak English, and my Hebrew is rudimentary at best, but not even that. So I called her son, and he said she had a terrible night. She had nightmares the whole day. So I realized, we're asking something of them that hurts. Like sometimes telling your story hurts.
You relive it.
You relive it, and it's important to educate. But it does come at a cost for some. And that was also something that I didn't realize before.
But you won her trust to say things, and it was very. I don't want to give spoil everything. People at some point, hopefully, this movie is more widely available. We want to talk to you about that. But both Tova and Rita have agonizing stories of things they suffered in the Holocaust. Rita hid in a hole in the ground with her family for 19 months, winter, summer.
Not going out once. I mean, you have to, what does it mean? And this, when we're saying underground, this is not like a spacious cavern. This is like... had to lay down. It was shallow. It was shallow. Her father couldn't stand up straight. And, I don't know what it is in feet, but it's like 2 meters 25 by 2 meters 50 for a family of 5 who hid down there. And
Rita, as a young girl, got suicidal. And it's a very moving story of how she survived that. And Tova survived 3 concentration camps, but she she went and got, lived a life, got married, had children, grandchildren, and all. Rita moved. She survived, went to the States, became a She has degrees in theology, psychology, and art therapy, and is brilliant in expressing herself. And you brought out incredible theological truths from her that really in the last scene as well. It's amazing.
You know, Tova at some point said to me, because Tova has 11, no, I think right now it's already 15 great-grandchildren. And in one of the interviews, after the interview, the camera was off, she sort of went to me and she said, you know what, and I apologize for the expression, but she said, you know, this, my family, that's my middle finger to Adolf Hitler.
You get your revenge against him by living a good life.
Yes.
And this is the dilemma, because what drew you to it originally alerted you in The Guardian. It was in the LA Times. It was, remember, we got a lot of media coverage, and I was having to defend it, that there was such a positivity for these ladies in going through this exercise, and you know, I know there was one Israeli MK. She was very critical, and she was like the go-to person if you wanted the other side of, you know, this is horrible. Who you mean. Yeah, and I looked at her. She was probably the most fashionable member of the Knesset, elegant woman, and probably had went to the hairdresser every third day. And a lot of these women can't afford it, and to give them that opportunity to go out and look beautiful and to shine in front of people who they are, to tell their stories. We owe you a lot for really, you know, answering a lot of that criticism. But you captured in the movie radio debates and TV debates about it. But what were you dealing with, and if people come to you even now criticizing what you've done?
Well, to be very honest, I have to applaud you and ICJ because, you know, I came in 2017, 2018. I think you did it for the first time in 2012. So, and I'm sure you at some point realized that there's some controversy around that. And I was facing the same questions, both from, you know, from film funds to TV stations to people whom I talked to about this. And then when I started filming, you know, when you come from Germany to Israel, you have a pretty black and white view in terms of, you know, ethics and morals. This is good, this is bad, this is, you know, how you behave, this is how you don't behave. You touch down in Israel, you realize there's a lot of other colors in play here. So I started, you know, asking myself, okay, what's my opinion about that? And the more time I spent with the Holocaust survivors, the more I realized that, listen, you can have an opinion. They're cheap. They're a dime a dozen, as they say, I think is the expression. But as long as they are alive, the only, and I really mean it, the only moral authority who can decide how to commemorate and whether it's right or wrong, as long as they're alive, are the Holocaust survivors themselves.
Yeah, and I think some people, they just want them to be locked in their pain and suffering till they die. And it is a dilemma here in Israel, because on Yom HaShoah, we're still in it here. It is still a heavy burden for this nation and people, what they suffered, and you have to honor them, and it's a very solemn day. You know, you're not playing games on your phones, you're not watching movies on television about other thing else. There's only Holocaust movies and education. You go visit Yad Vashem, others, you spend time with your family. But every other day, these survivors need to live and enjoy themselves, and that's the best revenge. But you know, I want to focus for a minute on the humor. You say you were tipped early on. I was just surprised. You know, I know you hear the girls sitting over there laughing here or there. My wife sits with her friends and they laugh. But you know, if a guy comes around, it's different. But you know, to have this little eye, this little window into these women, and like other contests, they're competing, and there's, you know, little remarks against each other. I was just mesmerized by it all. And this one lady, she was a school teacher, a math teacher many years. Did you get her story? Do you regret you didn't have time to tell some of the other ladies? There were 14 contestants in all.
Oh, I very much regret. You know, I would have loved to have all 14 live stories, but that's just not how documentary filmmaking works. One of the great things nowadays is that when you release a film, and I think we'll talk about that when it's going to be released, worldwide, not just in Germany, is you can add more material. You can create not just this 87 or 88 or 90-minute product or piece of art or work or whatever you want to call it.
Put it on a website and add some other things.
Exactly. You can make a whole ecosystem. And that's what I'm looking forward to, because I have amazing stories, among them Madeleine's, that I couldn't tell because I simply didn't have the real estate.
She was a school teacher. She says, they're not going to win. I got what it takes.
Yeah.
I got in just a really pleasant way, very delightful. And someone else, you hear these two ladies talking, they say, I hear Madeleine, she's not even a survivor.
Yes.
She's got connections.
Which of course was completely insane, but it's like the humor, like this kept me laughing, when I got, and I didn't understand it sometimes because I don't speak Hebrew, so I had to wait until I had the translations, but I had more than one instance of, watching my own footage and starting laughing out loud in the room I was in.
What about your colleagues in the film industry? What has been their reaction to you? They watch the film and they say, you should have done this, or you did that good. What's really, what have you learned from that process from others in your profession?
Oh, absolutely positive. Absolutely positive. I knew that I had a good movie from a certain moment on. I knew that. You know that because when you're editing, and it doesn't matter if it's documentary or not, you do test screenings. So and not just when the movie is finished. You want to see how, because after a while, as a director and as an editor, if you have one, and I had a wonderful editor. She's from Israel, but she lives in Germany. You sort of go blind in a way, because all your footage. You have sort of the God's eye view, for lack of a better word. So you do test screenings every now and then to see how the others react. So I knew from a certain point on that I had made a decent movie. And then when we had the first screenings, and I saw not only with the normal audience, but with my colleagues, that they had exactly the same reactions as me. They laughed, they cried. And literally, I cry in the movie as well.
Still.
The funny thing is that different people cry at different moments. Like I'll tell you
it catches up to them.
Well, I'll tell you a very brief story. There's a moment, like for me, Rita's when she talks about death at the very end. That's for me very touching movie. I remember when I watched the movie with my father for the first time, and my father's a serious guy. Not in terms of that he never laughs. He laughs a lot, but he's. Maybe I've seen him cry twice in my life. And he cried in the moment where Rita tells the story that sometimes, because her father had to go out from this, group, from this
to find food,
to forage food, and they stuck their heads then together and waited until he came back, because they said, if we're going to die, we're going to die all together. And for my father, this was hugely emotional. So that was, it's very special to see how people react emotionally in which places. Also, by the way, where they laugh, depending on which cultural background they come from.
I think most of the humor in here should be universal. You say you realize you've got a winner, and I think you've had to get a little guarded with this. You got a real gem. You're putting it in film festivals. You've shown it to the schools in Germany, which is fantastic. What's going to happen next with this film? Because our people also want to see it now that we built it up so much, and I'm raving about it. Dave, rave about this.
We may have to do another webinar shortly before it comes out, because here's the plan. So in Germany, it's already been in cinema. It's been in festivals on various continents all over the world. In cinema, it's been in Germany, and we're talking with TV right now. But that's just Germany. So we thought, well, how are we going to release it worldwide? And we're going to do a direct release, so that everyone, regardless of where they live, are going to have the possibility to purchase us, to watch us. And we're going to roll it out.
It'll be VOD.
Yes.
You pay to watch it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's going to be a fair price. I'm a documentary filmmaker. We're not Netflix. But it's going to be on January 27th of the next year.
Next year.
Because January 27th,
okay.
Yom HaShoah.
That's the International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Exactly.
Israel has done theirs in the spring, just after Passover, connected to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. But the International Day is January 27th, the liberation of Auschwitz.
Of Auschwitz, exactly.
Yeah. So next 2026, January 27th, there'll be general release in most of the world.
Exactly.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the people are going to have to be patient, savlanut, have to learn to wait, but it's well worth the wait. That's my question. How are people going to be able to see it? And hopefully our folks can wait. Anything else to say? We're going to show it tonight here at the embassy for a select audience. I'm just so looking forward to seeing it again and trying to catch maybe a few things. Sometimes you get laughing and you miss the next line because you're not able to see, say, the subtitles or whatever, and I'm sure I missed a few things. But I had my son with him who's young, and we were in tears from laughter and the pain they suffered from one to the other. But the pace of the film is slow enough that you can go from one to the other because you take us back and forth over and over again. Was that basically how you decided to frame the film?
Yes, and
was that an early decision early on? You realized the material just begged that?
Yeah, that's number one. And number two, it's kind of like, for some reason, it's in my nature to drift towards tragic comedy if we're talking about, fictional. So it's a documentary, but it has elements, it has light and it has darkness. And one of the most difficult things when you're editing is how to balance that. Because balance it too much in one way, it gets too dark. You have to walk the tightrope.
It's perfect balance. It really is. It really is. I have to say that. And but it's unforgettable. I've sat at Yad Vashem and seen the testimonies they've recorded, or you see it in movies and documentaries of people telling their stories, but you really don't get to meet, and then they'll say, well, this person then went on to have a family and kids and you don't get to meet them today in the fullness of their personality. And here you let these people shine who they are today. It turns out these ladies, you can't say they've all fully recovered. They still carry scars, but they did become women with grace, with their own lives, their own personality. Some of them just absolutely hilarious to find humor in life after what they've been through. I just have such respect for them, and that really comes out in this film. Miss Holocaust Survivor is the name of it. It was really for awareness and fundraising and all of the work we do up at the Haifa Home for Holocaust Survivors. Our partner there, Shimon Savag, came up with the idea. Who are we? We're not Israeli. We went along with it but defended it. And this film really it justifies what happens I think now that COVID is over and the war, we'll probably go back to another one of these beauty contests in a year or so, where these ladies get to shine who they are today while also telling what they suffered in the Holocaust. Any last comments to our people?
Well, maybe only this.
You had a lot of filming of Christians who were visiting the home and interaction. If you could say something about that.
Well, okay, we talked earlier, so maybe this. Definitely the group that I experienced that were the best singers was the group from the Philippines.
The Filipino
Christians
amazing. Who came to the home to see the survivors.
Yes, and they sang together. They sang for the survivors. They sang with the survivors, with Rita. Rita took great pleasure in singing with them. And the group from Mexico that was very, very special.
Yes.
And almost cathartic also. Like we put a moment in the movie. It's cathartic. I would call it cathartic. Very, very special.
Yeah,
And
for these Christians to encounter survivors and meet them, and even for the survivors to realize people love them all over the world.
Exactly. And when people see this movie, it's the topic of the Holocaust is important, and if you want to go beyond that, this is something that I can't do anymore, is acknowledge the beauty that is in older women. Acknowledge it.
Yes.
Sit down with your grandmother or your great-grandmother if you're lucky enough to still have one. Look at her, talk to her. That's really what,
There's a lot of wisdom there, and a lot of positivity in life that comes out in humor.
Absolutely. I wish I could still do that with my grandmother. I can't anymore, unfortunately.
Okay. Roddick, we thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting
all the
me.
best with this film. We hope you get some other awards, and we look forward to making it available to everyone in about, I guess that's around 8 months' time. But that's our time for today on the ICJ webinar series. We thank you for joining us, and join us again next week, 3 p.m. Israel time, for our webinar from Jerusalem. God bless you.
Thank you for joining us today. Join us again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on our social media platforms for more exclusive ICEJ content.